I'm Audrey.
I'm Mike.
I'm Phyllis.
And you're watching
Word of Mouth.
We saw the Tom Stoppard play Coast of Utopia, Part 1, The Voyage.
The story revolves around a family in Russia and how their life has changed or will be changing at the time of the Russian Revolution.
The burgeoning beginnings of what would have been the movement, the Decembrists, that were then, after they were lauded, were all slaughtered and exiled to Siberia. And then within the Russian Revolution, all of the literature being eliminated, you know, all of the censorship being imposed.
1835 to 1844. And what they did was the first act was all taking place at this home. And the second act took you away from the home, did the same time frame, but talked about what was going on in Moscow and Petersburg.
The first act is thick. The second act has much more comic relief, and as we were saying to each other, the second act has many moments where it explains the first act to the lowest common denominator, which I feel like I was for a portion of this show.
I felt that this group was a wonderful ensemble group. They really worked together. I don't think anybody truly stood out. It wasn't like some of the shows that you go to where you have one person on the stage or two people on the stage for a very long period of time.
Well, there are lots of famous people in the cast, including Ethan Hawke, Amy Irving, Billy Crudup, Martha Plimpton.
I think Martha Plimpton lived further than what I thought. She was really, really very just so natural and just came across so believably, you know, in the moment there. She was great.
Billy Crudup especially. He did a wonderful, wonderful job. He had the longest, two very long monologues in the show and did them splendiferously. He was wonderful with that.
I thought the best person was Billy Crudup. Whenever he was speaking, you were sort of magnetized and couldn't take your eyes off the stage. Ethan Hawke was, he was excellent, but Billy Crudup stole the show, if you ask me.
The women all kind of melted together, I have to say. They were the sisters, you know, and all right, so was Amy Irving. Big deal, you know? She's just one of the sisters, and it was hard to tell which one she was for a while.
The way it opened was very stark it was supposed to show you the ocean with a ship sailing, and it was fabric flowing with a breeze to make it look like the ocean waves.
The stage was unbelievable. They did something, I don't know, the way that it was worth sitting through that show for the first 5 minutes, the way that they opened the show. It was unbelievable.
There were parts of this show that were unlike any other show I've seen, in the lighting and the staging and how the characters moved around one another with the rotating stage, sort of reminiscent of Les Mis.
I think it was wonderful. I was really very much impressed with it. A little confusing. It's Russian, after all, and if you've ever read Solzhenitsyn or Dr. Zhivago, you know how difficult it is to keep people straight.
In the timeline, you're trying to figure out and keep straight which characters are evolving, who went where, back to Moscow, Berlin, you know, like they're jumping around. So you really have to kind of know a little and stay paying attention when you're watching it, because there's a lot of information.
I think before the next part I'll try to see exactly what was going on and maybe even look into what some of the philosophers who they were mentioning thought about, so I could understand more when they refer to a certain philosopher what his philosophy was.
I think it would take you a year to bone up on all of those philosophers if you didn't have some kind of a background already. So I don't think it's worth it to go to a play to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the heck the play is talking about. Let the play tell you what it's talking about.
I guess the thing you fear with seeing something that's going to be a part of a trilogy is that the first part will have a beginning but no end, the middle will have neither, and the finale will only have an end. But there was a beginning, a middle, and a conclusion to this portion, which helps it stand alone.
There was enough character structure individually for each character that, yeah, you were wanting to see what becomes of him. Where does this guy go? Are they going to meet in Paris? What's going to be? What's happening in Paris at that time? You know, like, it was definitely serial quality. You know, you were interested to follow and come through with, you know, and see what the next was going to hold for you.
agriculture.
What do you mean, agriculture?
That's what I said. Stankiewicz has been in Berlin for months, sitting at the feet of the professor there, who was Hegel's actual pupil. And my father says he'll agree to pay my debts if I study agriculture.
Why agriculture?
Apparently, Pramukhino is an agricultural business. You thought it was just there, didn't you? An aesthetic fact of nature, like a bluebell, only much bigger.